For an executive session that began at 7, any action of the council is resolved. The executive session, Mr. Rumbelow.
No, Your Honor.
Then we'll call our 7:30 meeting to order. As should arise is Commissioner Betty. B.J. Wilson gives an invitation and the pledge.
Father, I come to you this evening and just thank you so much for the rain that we have received, for the refreshment that it gave our land. I pray, Father, that you'll be with us tonight as we ponder the issues before us, that we would make wise and informed decisions that would be beneficial to the majority of the residents of this city. Father, I pray that you would be with those throughout the world and Grapevine Protecting Service. Just bless them. Be with us, guide us, and direct us in all that we do this evening. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome each of you to our meeting tonight. We have 4 joint public hearings between the Planning and Zoning Commission and the council. It's followed by the council's agenda as published. If you're here tonight in regards to one of the public hearings, we will open each public hearing individually. We'll give the applicant an opportunity to make their presentation. We will then ask any guest that's present or give any guest present an opportunity to speak, either for or against the proposal. If you're not an applicant, you wish to speak, you need to register with Ms. Brown so we have a record of your participation, and she will call on you in the order that you register. The P&Z breaks off into a separate meeting after the public hearings and discusses the merits of the request and makes recommendations to the council. So we invite you to be a part of your city government tonight. We'll begin by declaring open public hearing on conditional use application CU 13-14. Mr. Ron Stahlbaugh, our staff will introduce the request.
Thanks, sir. We have an address of 100 Great Wolf Drive for this request. It is the Great Wolf Lodge located at the southeast corner of Texas Trail and State Highway 26, currently Zone CC, Community Commercial District. And our request this evening is to amend the previously approved plan for the hotel and conference center, specifically to allow for on-premise alcohol beverage sales, outside dining, and outdoor speakers, in conjunction with a new restaurant to be called Hungry as a Wolf Restaurant. The site plan here just simply shows the location of the new restaurant. It'll replace a former Pizza Hut that was at this location, along with the conversion of an outdoor patio area for outside dining. There will be some televisions in this outside dining area. And with that, I'll introduce Mr. Jack Bateman to speak to the request.
Good evening, folks. The proposal we have here is, we had Raccoon Lagoon, which is our outdoor bar at our Pizza Hut location. We discontinued our Pizza Hut franchise and came up with Hungry as a Wolf. And the outdoor bar, which was permitted on the original building when we opened, we basically built a freestanding bar with some TVs out there to watch sports shows, news, what our guests were sending to us on the research. The accessibility to the outdoor bar, you have to be a hotel guest because you have to go out the doors by our Cub Club facility, and you have to have a wristband, obviously, to get into the outdoor water park or the indoor water park for that matter. So basically, what we've done is to build a freestanding bar to replace the Raccoon Lagoon that was part of the building. We just pushed it out. It's probably 10 feet away from the building, and that's why we're requesting this permit to be approved.
Questions? Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
Questions? No questions.
Questions from the council? Apparently not. Thank you, Mr. Bateman.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone registered to speak?
No, sir.
Do we have any letters or petitions?
We have one letter of support copy for the grant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Do you have anything else?
No, sir. Need a motion to close the public hearing. Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Motion to close the public hearing, a motion from the council.
Move that we close the public hearing. Second.
All in favor, all opposed, the public hearing is closed on CU 13-14. We'll declare open public hearing on conditional conditional use application C 13-15. Mr. Stonebach.
Sir, we have a address of 1300 Texan Trail and 1351 Minners Chapel Road for this request. It generally located just north of the State Highway 114 Texan Trail intersection. Currently zoned CC, Community Commercial District, and our request is to amend the previously approved plan for an automotive dealership, specifically to allow the establishment of a planned commercial center and allow for some additional parking. Park Place Mercedes dealership was approved by council at the December 15, 2009 meeting. This is on a 20-acre site that has a monument sign along Minners Chapel Road and a 20-foot pole sign on Texan Trail. With this request, the applicant intends to incorporate 14 acres located immediately adjacent to the north, separated by an open drainage channel. This property be utilized in a multi-phase fashion for some additional parking for both the Mercedes and the Lexus dealership. If approved, the applicant's going to implement this in three phases. The first will be 511 spaces labeled Phase 1. This will be equally divided between the Mercedes and Lexus dealership. Then later, a second page would be a bridge connecting the two parcels over the open drainage channel. And then later on, a third phase consisting of about 418 spaces. And with that, I introduce Mr. Ken Snitzer to speak to the report.
Thank you. I'm here to request approval for this site plan. If you'd asked me 2 years ago when the Mercedes dealership moved to this site, and we moved from Bedford to Grapevine, if I'd be standing here today asking for some additional parking, I probably wouldn't have believed it myself. But our business has really grown so much, and we feel that with some of the expansion plans we have for both Mercedes and Lexus, it's incumbent that we really have this parcel to continue to operate in the best way possible. I think one of the things I respectfully request is that we were in the process of doing the engineering on the bridge across the way, and like to work with the city on the best location for that bridge. It's a pretty straightforward plan, and I would respectfully request approval, and happy to answer any questions.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
I have one. Will all the parking be uncovered, just open lots?
Yes, ma'am.
Questions from the council? Apparently not. Do we have any letters or, do we have anyone wishing to speak?
No one wishes to speak, and you have one letter of support copy before you.
Mr. Chairman.
Need a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Commission closed, vote from the council.
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed. Public hearing is closed on C 13-15. Public hearing is open on C 13-16. Mr. Stompa.
We have an address of 1056 Texan Trail. It's generally located just south of the Wall Street Texan Trail intersection, currently zoned BP Business Park. And we have a request to amend a previously approved plan for a planned business park to allow for the development of 3 medical office buildings. Site plan here shows the 3 buildings that are intended to be developed. The northernmost lot, 5,407 square foot structure, and southernmost lot, two structures, each 3,257 square feet in size. All three buildings or both lots will be accessed by an internal cross-access easement. And with that, I'll introduce Mr. Albert to speak to the report.
Thank you, Ron. Mr. Mayor, council members, and members of P&Z, my name is Al Burton, representing Grapevine Station and Westwood Real Estate Development. As Ron indicated, we've got the southeast corner of this development as our project, and due to the high demand that we're seeing in this professional office environment, we have a deed. We actually have a surgeon group who wants to purchase the north half of this existing lot. Therefore, we're wanting to replat this into 2 lots. These lots meet the Grapevine minimum lot size requirements. They also meet the setback requirements. From a use standpoint, as Mr. Stoneball indicated, these are medical office. It fits contextually perfect with what is going on at the south end of the Grapevine Station development, because we're seeing the majority of the activity as professional office use. So that works nicely. So we're respectively asking that you consider this, review this, and if you see fit, please approve it. We would appreciate that, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the clerk? No questions?
Question from council? Apparently none. Thank you, Mr. Bird.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone wishing to speak?
No, Mayor.
Any letters of petition?
You have one letter of support copy before you.
Thank you very much.
Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close. Second.
All in favor?
Commission closed, the motion from
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
all in favor, all opposed, public hearing is closed. Public hearing is open on C 13-17, Mr. Stump.
Have an address of 2140 Hall Johnson Road, Suite 118. It's located near the northwest corner of William B. Tate Avenue and Hall Johnson Road, currently zoned CC in the commercial district. And a request this evening is to allow on-premise alcohol beverage sales in conjunction with a restaurant, outside dining, and we're also going to be revising the floor plan as well. Site plan here shows the location of a proposed restaurant. We've had two other restaurants in this location, the last one being a restaurant known as The Flats. The applicant's going to remodel this restaurant and add 10 outdoor seats. Along with that, they'll be providing seating for 66 patrons indoors. This is a reduction from the previous restaurant with that seating for 93. There are no outdoor speakers or TVs associated with this request. With that, I'll introduce Mr. Charles Williams, I believe, to speak to the request.
Thank you very much for letting us be here this evening, City of Grapevine. My name is Charles Williams. I represent SoCal Tacos. SoCal Tacos started as a food truck here in the Mid-Cities about 2 years ago by the gentleman over here named Scott Woolley. The concept was so successful, we were urged by people to open a brick and mortar location. We searched long and hard for about 6 months. We finally selected Grapevine as the perfect market, and we think we found a great space here. We respectfully request that you approve the amendment for the alcohol sales and the 10 patio seats that we're conducting, which is just basic metal chairs in the front, 5 small 2-top tables. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about SoCal Tacos.
Questions from the board?
Can you tell me a little bit, is this a cafeteria style, is it wait service?
It's very similar to Torchy's Tacos or Fuzzy's Tacos, where we have 2 point-of-sale systems where the customers will walk in and order at one of the 2 point-of-sale systems. We also have a to-go station. They will place the order, they'll be given a number, we'll have runners actually bring the food to them, so we're looking at probably about a 25 to 30 minute dining time within our restaurant.
And then, is it you bus yourself, or,
We take care of the busing as well.
okay, you do the bus?
We have the runners who bring the food and they will bring the tables as well.
Okay, so they're gonna be busing outdoors?
Well, we'll be buzzing outdoors as well, yes, to the 5 2-tops, yes, sir.
And what are your regular hours?
We are going to be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and that is going to be Monday through Saturday. We are a faith-based group, and we will be closed on Sundays.
The outdoor seating is gonna be open till 10 p.m., Monday through Saturday.
Assuming people want to sit out there, yes.
Questions?
Question, will there be any live music?
No, we currently don't have any plans to have any live music. We probably will have some mild music within the restaurant's walls, but at this point, we won't have any outdoor speakers.
All right, any questions from the council?
We've received some letters that are opposing your zoning change because of the difficulties that the neighborhood behind has had in the past, as well as some of the adjacent merchants. And it has to do, obviously, with previous occupants in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Which were restaurants, none of which had alcohol, I don't believe. Or did they?
I believe they did.
But they didn't have any outdoor dining, and so there seems to be a concern that there would be a repetition of the difficulties in the neighborhood behind because of noise and because of trash and beer bottles and that type of thing that was thrown over into their property. Have you had occasion to visit with any of the residents in the adjacent neighborhood?
We have not had an opportunity to visit with any of the residents yet of the neighborhood. We certainly plan to to reach out and hope to be well received by the community. We would ask respectfully not to be held accountable for the previous tenants and the way they conducted their business. Coming from the food truck business, cleanliness is next to godliness, and the city health departments are as strict, if not more strict, on the food trucks. We certainly understand trash concerns and, beer bottles and stuff like that, and I can tell you that, all I can tell you is we will do the very best job to keep the most clean possible restaurant. I mean, I've been in the restaurant business for a while. Some of the restaurants that I've run, we have a reputation for being very clean, very diligent with the trash, clean employees. That stuff is critically important to our business.
Okay, the outside dining, there'll be 5 tables, and you do understand that no outside music would be permitted unless you came back, outside speakers would be permitted unless you came back and applied for that. You do
Yes, ma'am,
understand?
we understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Apparently not. Do we have anyone wishing to speak?
How do you do? Charles did a great job spelling that out. Thank you, Charles. I just wanted to address you, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake about it, we're not a bar. We're a restaurant that serves alcohol. The alcohol is going to complement our food very well. I like to think that our actions are going to speak a lot greater than our words. We are a faith-based company. We're closed on Sundays. That's really what we hang our hat on, is our principles and the way that we conduct ourselves. And so I just want you guys to be completely aware of that. Okay?
That's all.
That's all?
Yes.
Okay. We have the 2 letters. Okay. 2 letters opposing and 1 letter in favor.
That is correct, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Need a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Motion closed, a motion from the council.
Close. Second.
We have a motion to close, all in favor, all opposed, motion carries. Public hearings are now closed. Planning and Zoning Commission will reconvene in the meeting room to the right. It's a public meeting. You're invited to attend, and the council will remain in session here. We'll consider its agenda.
I'd love to see it though. History.
All righty. Do we have any citizens' comments tonight?
Yes, Mayor. Arama Asapur, PO Box 2644.
Mr. Mayor, other members of City Council, various city staffers, greater audience present, greeting. My name is Aram Azadpur. I'm a homeowner and resident of City of Grapevine. I have noted this to City Secretary as well as City Manager, but just an FYI, and also I want to bring it, an item to your attention, the elected body here. I have brought a civil suit against the city. The city has been there, as I mentioned, various people who need to know are aware of it. Last week, sometime, either Thursday or Friday, somebody posted a note at my house. There's a name on the note. I'm not going to assume it was the same person because I didn't see who put it up. Whoever put it up committed a trespass, and I expect the city manager to have that note removed tomorrow by midday. I'm going to read, it's regarding the ordinance of the city, chapter 12, section 111. I'm going to read subsection A5 D1 part of it, which is relevant. Then the city's building official or his designee shall notify such owner by letter addressed to him at address shown on the last approved tax rolls of the city or at any residence or business structure located on subject property or at the last known address. The mailing of notice in accordance with any of the above shall satisfy this provision. In the alternative, the city may notify the said owner by publication in the city's official newspaper for one occasion. And it goes on to say, a statement of the cost incurred by the city to abate such conditions shall be mailed to the owner of said premise, which a statement shall be paid within 30 days of the date of mailing. The ordinance, I have an ongoing issue with the city, as you know. I'm not going to expect the city officials, which includes this elected body, to be aware of the applicable state as well as constitutional provision. But I think I have a reasonable expectation to know that you guys know your own ordinance. And as I just read, the ordinance does not permit any posting of any notice on anybody's property for the alleged violation of that section. It requires mailing. So whomever made that posting, Mr. Mayor, I expect you to have it removed tomorrow. Otherwise, I will be amending my complaint with the district court to incorporate a trespass as well. That's pretty much it. I'm going to leave a copy of this petition with the city secretary, so if any of you is interested, you can read your own city ordinance. Otherwise, I appreciate your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. Any others?
David Halvorson, 2810 Oak Forest Drive.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm a resident of the Oak Creek Estates neighborhood, which is right at just south of the southeast of the corner of Mustang Drive and Highway 121. As many of you may be aware, the southbound ramp onto 121 was removed over the construction of the DFW connector project, and living on that southbound William Tate service road, running past Timberline Drive, which is extensively used to jump onto to exit our community. I was actually speaking to one of the gentlemen over there at the Northgate project, and he apparently was not aware that the temporary ramp was not the only ramp ever there, but that, as most of us know, that the ramp has been there for many years. We've been residents in that neighborhood for since 2001. And so I do not know what the ability of the city council is to make changes to the project or to the street adjustments to needed street accesses after the Northgate project is complete. But I would like to respectfully submit that it be considered to reinstall that ramp immediately following, because of all the traffic that comes south from the business district there at 114 and William Tate. Certainly the restaurants are doing no more than getting more and more busy, and for that stretch of 120 of William Tate southbound from Mustang, having to run all the way down to at least 360 or to Hall Johnson to just get onto the freeway, that's creating a freeway service road all the way past those areas where the residents are trying to get back and get onto that service road there with no traffic control. So if you have any questions for me, I'm available. David Halverson, and I'm the Republican precinct chair in that area, 3038, former SRC for the state Republican Party.
I think we're aware of that situation. There's several situations being considered by engineering department. What happened was that some of the project, because of funding, got cut out. And when they cut out maybe a ramp or something, they didn't really look adequately at what they needed to do to modify something else to accommodate for that change. So there's going to have to be some
Yes, sir, Your Honor. And to that end, we'll make contact with David and keep him apprised as we go forward.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you for your consideration.
All right, anyone else, okay?
Carl Young, 4113 Meadow Drive.
Council and Mayor, actually two things just came to mind as I was listening to this other gentleman talk. I believe one of the things you're going to be talking about tonight, and this is just for a moment, is the bike trail or the trail that's going to be going into Deer Creek Park. I believe what this gentleman is talking about over here could affect that, if that road is what I think it is, coming off of Mustang, with respect to access to that park road. Something else to consider, Bruno, with traffic over there, because that's kind of busy right now. I want to talk to you tonight about your item 7. That's what I came here tonight for. When it was brought up at the workshop a couple weeks ago, I had some serious questions as to why I was being suggested to go to a paper bag for grass pickup on every other Wednesday, and why it was being suggested that it would probably be a good idea for me to tell my lawn service, which happens to be me, that it needs to be cut on Tuesday so that the bag can be picked up on every other Wednesday. I understand that there's a certain thing that needs to be done with green space, green everything, recycling. I'm not against change. What I am against is somebody telling me inadvertently, not factually, that it would be a good idea for me to cut my grass on Tuesday so that it can be picked up every other Wednesday so I can comply with the program. I am concerned that the last time a pilot program was run, I wound up with a green bucket that is right now in my garage for recyclables that I really didn't want because I didn't need it. So my question also to you people tonight is very simple. If this pilot program goes through, which is item 7 that you're talking about, which I'm sure you're going to approve, because it's worthwhile finding out if it works, eventually am I going to be stuck with another albatross, which half the people in my subdivision right now, or my area, aren't using. And I have to store a green bucket in my garage because it's my choice. I really don't like seeing green buckets on the outside of houses. I think it distracts from the neighborhood. But that's what we did. That's what all of us did last year. My question, and I know the lady's going to be talking about a little bit more, and I finally saw the bag. Who is going to pick up the refuse if the bag ruptures because it rained the night before and now they're picking it up and all of a sudden it's all over the yard? Are these bags that strong that they can take 1.5 inches of rain in a couple hours? Those are the questions I have when you think about this tonight. Understand, I'm not against recycling. I'm not against change. I just think it's important that when we consider some of this stuff for our community, we look past the box rather than as to who's going to make it convenient for who. Thank you.
Might tell you that even though you don't like the green buckets, the majority of the people do on follow-up surveys, and the recycling poundage went up considerably. So, you know, there's various opinions to every issue, but I just wanted you to know, when we do something, we follow up and see whether it was is working and is well accepted. And
was an ordinance or something like that that meant that these things had to be put on the side of a property or in a garage or some not visible. I drove here tonight and I counted 7 units that are consistently out in my area that are not getting put away. So I guess my question then back to you would be very simply, who's enforcing what ordinance? And thank you.
Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
Okay, very good. We have 3 items of new business. The first is to consider award of a landscape architect contract. And Kevin Mitchell, I think, has a report on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of council. The first item is award of a landscape contract, landscape design contract throughout the connector project to Laterra Studios, and they have a team assembled. There are 6 areas, and I'll go through, I believe you have them in your packet, but I'll go through and highlight them. The first area is Area 1 at Northwest Highway and 114. And what you're going to see, these images, some of them, they're just diagrammatic, so the roads may not be accurate to what's there today, but the area is where you know. So the first area is Northwest Highway and 114 right there behind CVS. And it's still not working. It's still not working. Yeah. The second area is right there at the intersection of RE Woods and 114. That's where Baylor Parkway comes out. That's where the circle on-ramp is. The circle on-ramp, and then there's it's actually 2 areas, but we've identified it as one area right there between the highway and Bottle Cap Alley. The next area is basically across the highway in front of Academy and Best Buy. There's a couple large tracts of land that are left over there from the freeway as well. And then jumping back across to the other side of the highway, adjacent to where we just were at Baylor Parkway, in front of Mimi's Cafe and Barbecues Galore. There's been left a rather large detention area there, so the intent would be to landscape pretty much as you exit WD Tate from the frontage road there all the way down to where you would enter Baylor Parkway. That entire area would be landscaped together.
This will be on our ticket, right? Our cost.
Correct.
And what kind of landscaping are you talking about?
This would be large-scale native landscape planting, similar to what you see on the other freeways, like the George Bush Toll Road, if you've driven that, where there are large blankets of ornamental grasses, low maintenance, low water usage. But to answer your previous question, we've had initial discussions, Mr. Hodge and I with TxDOT, and we feel very confident, such as State Highway 26, that these projects would be looked upon very favorable for the Green River Grant project. So that's really kind of what this is to have the landscape plans drawn up and be ready, and then when that call for grants comes out, we would then have plans for certain areas to go ahead and submit to TxDOT for grant purposes. So that would be the intent of that. And there's
Shovel-ready network.
yes, ma'am. There's one, actually two more areas.
DW, there's your 6 vineyards right there. I just wonder, I don't know. Have we made the decision that's what we want to do?
I think that's one of the things we're looking at tonight. Is that correct, Mr. Mitchell?
That is correct.
To design the area, I think really, those are really substantial areas, and the cost is going to be considerable. And we do have some options. I don't know how many of these areas may come back, and when the state does some other projects, may become part of the highway, but that's an awful lot of area.
Well, and
water and everything is just so precious, I understand. But I myself.
Well, and that's what is that by hiring a landscape architect, they would then come back, we would then come back to council with multiple concept plans, just like we did for State Highway 26,
We
present
don't
those.
have to spend any money to talk about what those concepts might be. That's what I'm saying. Before we start spending any money, we haven't had a workshop or discussion on this, have we?
No, Your
That
Honor.
I can remember. So, I just think we need to have a workshop on it. I don't know why we didn't, but that's a considerable amount of money. And, I don't know, we do have some options.
What's the default that TxDOT does if we do nothing here? What is that gonna look like?
Well, it's gonna look like what it currently looks like today, where they've put, basically a hay mat down with seed underneath it, and whatever germinates will germinate. They have to have coverage of the ground, but, the area right now in front of Target, Barbecues Galore and Mimi's Cafe, that area, quite frankly, it needs some work. It's just holding weeds and grass and trash. These 6 areas were identified just primarily due to the high visibility of either coming into town or in front of businesses. Is why they were identified, large areas. And that doesn't mean they'll all be plantings either. They could be large bands of mulch, they could be large bands of rock, different materials that really don't cost us any money other than the initial installation.
Mr. Rumble, I would think we should be able to talk about this at a workshop at our next meeting, the first meeting in August, couldn't we, to sort of figure out what we want to do?
I think we ought to. I mean,
I'm happy to.
Sure.
we ought to table this
Yep.
for
Yep.
a meeting. The contract's not going anywhere, and just see really, have a better idea of what the maintenance is gonna be, what the staff's really thinking about, and what the options are.
We'll do that. If I'm more than happy for you to table it, please do that. We'll schedule it for the next workshop. Our idea was to spend a little bit of planning money so that we would be ready to have shovel-ready projects in the event that we're able to be eligible for TxDOT funding going forward. But there's no hurry about doing that.
Not gonna take that long.
Not at
We can
all.
do it Monday night, as far as I.
Well, but we're really good with putting on the next workshop, Your Honor.
All right.
May I just say, I mean,
What I like.
and I'm fine with that, Mayor, I think that's a really great idea. The only thing that I would suggest, Kevin, is maybe take some pictures
I will.
around, so we have some ideas as to what these areas look, because I don't think any of us have focused so much on the highways and what looks good on other highways and what, you
What
know,
I'll-
could be the minimal.
What
So
I'll
we have
do
some
is I will
photographs.
take pictures of these areas as they look today, and then I'll also side by side overlay somewhat comparable areas on the George Bush areas. I actually have some on the next one of State Highway 26, it'll kind of give you a visual of what that's gonna look like, and that way you can look at them. And these areas can be modified or deleted or added or
Yeah.
however you
I
see
just think
fit.
that would be helpful in the workshop.
Sure.
Do that.
Okay.
And one question, how did we come up with this bid for the architectural services, landscape architects? Is it just, we took bids, or this is somebody that?
This is, the Laterra is the firm that is currently or currently used for a couple other projects. Their team is Pacheco Coke and Water Tech. Those are the ones that are currently doing the Community Activity Center and portions of State Highway 26. So part of it is by going with them is the value of, they already know the plant material, they already know the pallets, and they're already familiar with the projects. Any other
Well,
questions?
I am familiar with what you're talking about along George Bush. That's,
Portions of that. Some of that is not appropriate for here.
It's probably really low maintenance and does add some, but there are large areas I'd just like to know.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, not a problem at all.
It won't take long, I don't think, for you to explain to us. really.
No, and it won't take long to put that together. That's not a problem at all. Be glad to do it.
I move that we table this project to our first council meeting in August for a workshop discussion.
Second.
We have a motion, did we get a second? All right, all in favor, all opposed, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just give us a little bit better idea.
Okay.
We'll
do that.
I think everything will be fine with me, anyway. All right, council, to award a contract to Benchmark Gardens for the Baylor Parkway landscape irrigation installation. All right, Kevin.
This one will be a little simpler, I hope. As you know, Baylor Parkway was redone just recently, and we did go out for bids and solicited bids for the redesign. I'm going to jump on the picture you see is Baylor Parkway. Everyone's familiar with that. I'm going to go to the next slide.
This is what, didn't the state take down those trees that were there? They're not gonna put anything back?
Well, yes, they are. They're gonna help us on this project, so. Basically, what we did is we saved design fee on this. We basically took a portion of State Highway 26, worked with the contractors, modified it to fit in there since it is so close and it'll look the same. The top right hand is the concept plan, and in the middle of that is the plant material and the plant pallets. The pictures on the bottom are pictures that I took today of actually the plants and the plant material, what's going in out on State Highway 26 today. None of those are complete, but it gives you a feel for the green, I know the evergreen look, the low maintenance of the yuccas and the jasmine, no turf to mow, it's all drip irrigation, and then some color with the roses there. So basically it'll be a mirror image of a smaller section of State Highway 26. To answer your question, we do have some issues out on State Highway 26 where some utilities, some trees have already been planted, utilities are in the way. We've talked to TxDOT, basically they're going to let us take some of those trees, insert them into this project, and help us on the cost of this. So that assumption's already been made for that. So the recommendation would be to approve Benchmark Gardens. Any questions?
Any questions?
No, I'll move for approval on this project.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, we had a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All righty. Council to consider a resolution authorizing the implementation of a 3-month clean brush and yard waste pilot program for 2 residential routes. Stan Lassiter.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. City staff and allied waste staff presented the prospect of a pilot program to the council 4 weeks ago in a workshop. At the conclusion of that workshop, council asked staff to bring this back to the full council in an open meeting for consideration and possible action. The results of the recycle cart program has been very, very good. 84% increase in the recycle tonnage. And so the next step is to look at the possibility of diverting yard waste and brush from the landfill into a recycle type facility and therefore reduce our impacts on the landfill. Thank you. Every week, every Wednesday, we currently have unlimited brush bulk service to all residents in Grapevine. And we're currently generating about 86 tons a month that goes directly to the landfill. The pilot program, if council approves it, would span the months of September, October, and November. The brush-only service would be the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Wednesdays of the month, and that would be tree limbs, brush, leaves, and grass clippings in the mulch bags. The bulk brush service on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday would be the current service, which is basically they'll pick up anything that you leave out on the side of the road in front of the house. The 2 routes that Allied has chosen are in the far north area of Grapevine and a little bit more centrally located. They're roughly the same size, 1,360 homes in one and 1,376 homes in another. And this just gives you an idea of what the schedule would look like. The green is obviously the clean waste days, and the yellow would be the bulk and brush service in combination. Our tentative schedule would be, we put this information out to the public on our website, mailers to residents. The My Waste app would be updated to include the pilot area, e-news publications as of September 1, and then we would track the tonnage and customer inquiries for the months of September through November. We'd survey the pilot area residents at the completion of the 3-month period and then report back to council on the results.
Now, when you talk about brush, are you talking about the rest of the tree too? If somebody cuts down a tree, so brush can, is just, also it can, would encompass the rest of the tree, right?
That is correct, isn't it? Yes, it is.
And what are they gonna do with it after, they're gonna mush it and,
Correct.
deliver it to our, mush,
No,
bed, or are they gonna take it away?
They
or-
take it away. They take it away to a facility adjacent to a landfill, in fact, where they're operating a recycling and mulch production operation. So it would be taken out of the city.
Okay, so they'll take it out and mulch it and
Yeah.
sell it to someone, I guess.
I failed to mention Jerry Harwell with Allied Waste is here tonight, if you have any additional questions. This photograph is, I guess, the definition of brush and bulk. The bulk are the non-organic items, and that type of arrangement has to be hauled to the landfill. So when the trucks go by every Wednesday, if they're picking up that type of material, then it does go to the landfill. And even if it's just one home on the route, if it's got something other than clean brush or clean yard waste, then it has to go to the landfill.
So the things that are not considered brush, would the service remain the same on that?
On two of the 4 Wednesdays a month, yes. That's the pilot program as it stands
So
now.
that wouldn't change?
No, it would not. On the days where we're
It's only mushable products that we're dealing with.
that would be 2 or 3 of the Wednesdays out of the month. The other 2 Wednesdays would be brush and bulk in combination. This is more of an example of what we would be picking up in the brush and clean yard waste only days. And noted the paper bags for the yard waste. Those are biodegradable bags, and we have to use those to qualify for the mulching process. Otherwise, if you use the plastic bags with the lawn clippings, then it's going to end up in the landfill.
I thought we were doing brush every week, and that we would do brush in the recycled bags. I mean, they would only be picked, the recycled bags would only be picked up on those particular Wednesdays, but I thought we could get brush every week.
You will.
Wrong?
You will.
No, you will.
Just not recycled.
Brush and bulk
Okay.
will be where you've got the, if you will, contaminants to the clean. Those that will be picked up twice a month, pardon me. 2 Wednesdays out of the month. Clean brush and clean yard waste, which would be the yard clippings in the paper bags, would be picked up the alternating 2 Wednesdays of the month, and potentially 3 Wednesdays in a month where you have 5 Wednesdays.
Okay, I see. So brush is still every week.
Correct.
Yeah, it just won't be mulched on those.
That's correct.
Okay.
It'll be like this today.
That's what I thought I understood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about doing this. I think it's good for the environment. I think it's gonna take some education. I mean, out where Shane and I live, and we happen to be in the pilot program, there's an enormous amount of trees in our neighborhood, and when there's a lot of wind, we get a lot of branches and a lot of tree limbs that fall and so forth. So, I mean, I think Carl makes a really good point relative to leaves and so forth. But I think it's the right thing to do, and I think that we should do the pilot program and see how it goes. I actually think we're going to have probably as good a response as we did with the green containers to encourage people to recycle more, and it's the right thing to do, in my opinion.
It'll certainly give us a gauge on how the residents in those areas respond.
Ken, I think Mr. Young made a good point about the paper bags, and of course they're biodegradable. What's gonna happen when it rains? How sturdy are they? I'm not familiar with.
Sharon, I've got a neighbor across the street from Roy and I that actually is using those bags now, and had them out this week, and where we had significant rainfall and all the bags were intact. They're sturdy enough to handle all the rain you throw at them.
And the second question I had, does Republic have any statistics on how much they pick up in terms of old refrigerators, scraps, and things that are not recyclable on Wednesdays? Because it seems to me that, we're blessed with a lot of trees in town, and I think Darlene is right. all the neighborhoods have limbs and twigs and brush and things whenever we have a storm come through. And I think we're gonna have a lot more of that than we are old refrigerators on the curb. So I'm wondering if there's any stats.
That's an interesting question, because the reality is, I would think, just from my own personal experience, I generate brush and yard waste, but it's rare that I have any type of bulk that I want hauled off, so.
And so to that end, I'm wondering, if we really want to ramp up the recycling, it seems that what we might want to consider, and the pilot program will tell us this, is maybe we do old refrigerators on the first Wednesday of the month or some Wednesday, and then the rest of the time it's brush on Wednesdays. But that would inconvenience some folks, I understand that. So, but again, the pilot program will help us decide that.
That's what we're hopeful, is it will give us a feel for how much brush, clean brush we're getting and how much bulk.
Well, and isn't the goal to have those 2 times a month be the big bulk and eventually the brush just be those other times? Because that's sort of the goal, because if there's brush out there when the big things are picked up, and I agree with Councilmember Spencer, when the big things are picked up, obviously then it goes into the landfill. So, I mean, it's amazing the things they pick up. It's unbelievable.
Good evening. During our work session, we had this very conversation about the amount of brush that is really at the curb versus the bulk. It took 3 weeks for us to really find pictures that included actual bulk items away from the brush. And so that was when we were designing the pilot program. Our hope is that the residents will come back and say, we really don't need that bulk every other week, and then we can divert even more tons to the landfill. And unfortunately, because we track by tonnage and not by the yard, your brush doesn't weigh anything, your bulk does. So until we really start analyzing this and really, start seeing it and, seeing the difference in the weights and all of that, we're not gonna be able to know without doing this pilot program. So, thank you.
I'll move for approval if there's no more comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Stan. This brings us to the consent agenda, items 8 to 19, not scheduled for any council discussion. Any guest present can request any item be removed for further debate at this time. Do we have any requests? I hear none. Do we have any from the staff of the council?
Like to move item 14, please.
14?
Yes, sir.
14's off. Any others? Then item 8 through 13 and 15 through 19 is consent. Motion is in order.
I move that we approve consent items 8 through 13 and 15 through 19.
That's consent.
I'll second.
All in favor, all opposed, motion carries. Item 14.
Yes, sir. First of all, I noticed there's a number of items in here that we're trying to fund from the unencumbered balance in the quality of life fund due to the $700,000 saved on Highway 26. And so, in preparation for our workshop on the 1st of August, if we could have a list of what all this is including so we can kind of see where we are, I think that would be helpful. On this, I'm looking at the amount for this expenditure, this change order of $111,000, which seems to be a lot of money for his change order without some of this having come to council for approval first, before we got to this point. And so I'm trying to understand how this all came about.
Okay. It might be helpful, Kevin, if you could sort of separate the major from the minor in terms of where the major money went in relative to the change order.
Sure.
And then I guess too that, I'm your city manager, so anything you don't like, I take responsibility for, right? So I certainly would here as well, but please keep in mind that we were under a time frame to get this pool open so that we'd have the majority of time relative so that residents could enjoy the pool. So largely where this money was spent were on structural items that you can't see, that wouldn't have been discovered, that are a little bit like when you do utility work and you uncover something, And so the work that's required, because you have to uncover it before you can decide what all has to be done, is really sort of what the dilemma is. In this case, that's so, because as you recall, the bathhouse, which is sort of where the large part of this is, and the existing pool, of which we tried to save as much of both of those as we could, had field conditions where changes couldn't be known until they were uncovered. Once that was done, we had to make decisions in order to be able to keep the project on schedule. So that's what we did. Now, Kevin can probably explain it more articulately than I can, but that's what we were faced with, ma'am.
And can I just add one more thing before you start, Kevin? I do remember when we went through the plans and the layout and all this with this pool, we had a lengthy discussion in workshop about that. Until you got into it, you didn't know what you were going to discover in terms of some of these repairs and some of these structural issues. So, I mean, I don't disagree with having more discussion about this, but I do remember we talked about, and you made an effort to prepare us, that there were going to be potentially some structural things that you couldn't possibly anticipate. So,
Correct.
you know, given all that, this seems fairly reasonable to me, but I look forward to hearing what all the things are.
Kevin, let me ask one question. Did we have a contingency for those, did we discuss a contingency for that?
We did not that night. We discussed the thought of a contingency, and I believe a couple of comments that you made that evening is we were going to have issues that came up. If you'll remember back, the project was over budget, over our initial budget estimate when the bids came in, and the actual bid was $2.7 million and some change for the pool and the two buildings. So when we brought the contract for JC Commercial back to council, there was no contingency in it at all. Had we had a 10% contingency, obviously we would have had this covered.
Well, it's pretty low, it's only about 4%.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, relative to redoing an existing facility, I think it's pretty reasonable, really.
And I remember the discussion that we had, there's always things that you're gonna find when you build something that there's no way you could have known about. And I understand that, so now I'm interested in finding.
Sure. I'll go through the high points, and I'll kind of go building. It may not follow what's on the deal, but I'll go building by building. Let's talk first about the pool house and the bathhouse. A couple of the major issues structurally on that, the most alarming to us was the bond beam. There was an assumption that when you build a building and the bond beam is the top course of the CMU wall, that it has mortar in it and it's a bonded beam. Well, in fact, it was full of trash and paper. So we had to rip, once the roof came down and we exposed that, then we could see that structurally would not support the new roof that's there today. So that was one of the first items that came in. With that, there were some items in the roofing and the structure over primarily the north end of that building that we had a roof over, the offices and the little storage room and the little concession space. The structure of the roof could not support the weight of the new, and there were structural issues with the walls in there. In fact, they actually fell down inside there, and if you remember now that you've been there, it's more of, it used to be 3 or 4 separate rooms. Now it's really one room, open space with a metal pole in there, and that's really a result of that. Further on that same building, further on the north end where the current concession stand is, that slab was not a structural slab. It was assumed that it was. So that whole slab on the north end of that piece had to be torn out and redone, and obviously that's happening as the plumbing's going in when they discovered that. Regarding the pool, we kept the original L shape of the pool. Once the demo was done on the pool, there was a major crack that really ran kind of southwest, northeast across the pool. And our guess is that's why in years later they came back and put fiberglass over that. So there had to be some work done on the pool. We had to take sections of the existing slab that was not going to come out. So the pool had major structural issues as well. The pump house building, as you know, we expanded that, basically doubled it for the new system. The way the piping and the way the mechanical systems had to go in that, the slab would not support that. So we basically had to redo the entire, we had to put a support system under the existing slab, and basically that was saving the walls. And then also on that building, once they got in there and started putting the new roof on, the roof was not the highlights of it. There are a lot of little minor details here and there. lighting issues and electrical issues, but that's, the bulk of it is structural for all three of those.
Thank you very much for the explanation. I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Item 14 is approved. Thank you, Kevin. Do we have the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission? Item 20.
Item 20, CU 13-14 for Great Wolf Lodge, recommend approval 7-0.
Move for approval.
Second.
Favor, all opposed, motion carried. Item 21.
CU 13-15 Park Place Mercedes, recommend approval 7-0.
Move for approval.
Second.
Favor, all opposed, motion carries. Item 22.
22 preliminary plat for Mercedes, approved 7-0.
I move that the city council approve the statement of findings and the preliminary plat of lots 1 through 3, block 1, Park Place, Mercedes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All right, all in favor, all opposed, motion carries. Item 23.
Final plat for Lot 2, Block 1, Park Place Mercedes, recommend approval 7-0.
Move the city council approve the statement of findings and the final plat of lot 2, block 1, Park Place, Mercedes.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed, motion carries. Item 24.
CU 13-16 for Grapevine Station, recommend approval 7-0.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed, motion carries. Item 25.
Final plat, lots 1R1 and 1R2, Block 1, Grapevine Station, recommend approval 7-0.
Move that city council approve the statement of findings and the final plat of lots 1R1 and 1R2, block 1, Grapevine Station.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Item 26.
CU 13-17 SoCal Tacos, recommend approval 7-0.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, all opposed, motion carries. That completes our recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Completes our agenda. Thank you for being with us. Motion to adjourn is in order.
Move adjourned. Second.
All in favor?